daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United. You join us here as, once again, we're very good at this, we delve back to the past. Even though the game on Sunday was actually pretty good and we actually got 3 points, we still like to take a trip back to the past and see of better days, especially the days under Sir Alex Ferguson. My name is Kieran. I'm delighted to be joined by Cormac Dooley on today's episode. Cormac, welcome to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kieran. Yeah, in a good mood, very good mood after the win on Sunday. So what a performance from the lads, and yeah, hopefully we'll kick on now from that.
Joint top assist, Harry Maguire getting the winner. I mean, you can't ask for more. I should clarify, joint top assister for Manchester United with 1. That's according to the official Premier League website. Mad stat, love it. Right, we're getting into our time machine today. Of course we are. We're Manchester United fans in the current day, 2025. We like going back to the past. And we're taking you back to 2012 and 2013, more specifically the Champions League. And those of a, very good memory or just a fantastic brain will realise probably where this ship is steering to. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing what if Nanny was never sent off? A topic which, at the time, caused a huge amount of debate. Apart from Roy Keane, who said it was a fair decision, a lot of people, like former referee Dermot Gallagher back in 2013, were saying it was a harsh decision. So let's take a look, Cormac, and see what could have happened and what games we could have had. Could we have got to the final and won it?
Yeah, we were looking through the tree there before we started the episode, and we would have, if we had beaten Madrid, would have went on to play Galatasaray, who we had in the group, beat them 1-0 at home but lost 1-0 away. So I still think we'd pull through over the 2 legs. And then I believe we'd have Dortmund in the semi-finals, who, Dortmund lost to Bayern in that final, but Dortmund were a great team as well. You had Lewandowski in fine form, the likes of Royce, Mario Götze. So they had a great team as well. But, we were Premier League champions that year. You could argue Dortmund might prove a tough test, but I think we'd pull through that. And then, the final against Bayern, that's where it gets really, really tough because that team was phenomenal.
That's the sort of outline of what was in that stage, how the Champions League would have looked. Well, let's take you to the group stage because you've already mentioned, Cormac, a case of, we had a win against Galatasaray at home, a loss to them away in Turkey, and I'll always maintain any away day in Turkey, it's probably one of the toughest fixtures out there. The hostile crowds really can make it difficult to play with confidence. So you do see Turkish teams getting very good results against some of the bigger clubs, so not surprising at all. Perhaps what was most surprising was Cluj getting a result at Old Trafford, 5th of December. They actually won 1-0, in that game, which, kind of put the hold on there of actually going through. Luis Alberto got the goal for Cluj there. So, it was a tricky one. But, you look at the United squad back then, it was definitely a rotated side that came up against Cluj. You still had De Gea in goal, but this is 2012-13 De Gea. This is not, the peak De Gea. You had Phil Jones at right back. You had Wooten and Smalling in the centre-back partners. Alex Butner at left back. You then had Nick Powell, Tom Cleverley and Ryan Giggs in the midfield. Welbeck, Rooney and Hernandez up top. It's kind of quite a rotated side for that game. But I suppose that makes sense because, probably we were thinking, it's Cluj, we'll be fine.
Yeah, no, it sounds like something I do on Football Manager just to give the young guys some game time or something. But, hearing the likes of Scott Wooten starting there in the Champions League game, clear that Fergie probably thought, Cluj were a walkover, and even with that squad, he'd get a result. There still were, experienced players. You mentioned Giggs, Rooney, he still had quality, Chicharito up there. But yeah, it was a very rotated squad, and, obviously it backfired because they ended up losing, and luckily it didn't cost United anything. What game week was that, actually?
I think that was game week 5.
Okay, so maybe they might have already been kind of through.
I think they finished third in the end. So they, at that point in history, you drop into the Europa League. You finish third in your group, and they went down due to results, I think, against Galatasaray, because although they had the better goal difference, they didn't actually make it through. And just looking at the results they had against Galatasaray, they had a 1-1 draw in Turkey, so managed to better United's result. But it was the result of at home to Galatasaray, 3-1 loss, and that was the reason they dropped down into the Europa League. But yeah, a group with Manchester United, Galatasaray, Cluj, and Braga. I mean, looking at the other groups in there, bear in mind this is a case of you had pot 1, 2, 3, and 4 of sort of quality of opposition, if you want to call it that. So you'd normally get one team that would run away with it. You'd have two teams fighting for that second place spot, and someone who's just turning up there and happy to just have the money for turning up. That was sort of what the Champions League was. Much better system now, I think. But say this, Dortmund topped a Group D, which had Real Madrid, Ajax, and Manchester City. I mean, that's quite something.
Jeez, yeah, that is. I mean, when you compare that to our group, I mean, I'd say every team in that would be better than any team we had. Maybe Ajax not over Galatasaray, but I mean, yeah, that's credit to Dortmund, because then they go on to beat Madrid again. So yeah, fair play to Dortmund that year. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, that was a Man City side, by the way, that had Tevez up top. Oh, I'm still not over it. Nasri, David Silva, Yaya Toure. They had Kompany, Nastasic, Joe Hart, Maicon, Clichy. I mean, it's not a case of it's not a bad side. It's just that I think in all essence, Man City had a really, really tough group that year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they finished what, third?
Fourth. They finished fourth in
wow.
the group. Yeah. They picked up 3 points. They went winless in their group stage.
Wow, that's very surprising. Especially that was the year after they won the Prem. That's a terrible go at it in Europe.
It was, but we can't say much recently because we're not in it at the moment. We haven't been in it for some time, which is sad. But just bring us all back down to earth. And then, of course, we talk about the game. The Real Madrid versus Manchester United game, first of Group H, took on Real Madrid, who finished second in the we already mentioned Group D. And as you said before we started recording there, that was a tough fixture at the best of times. That's that you see that quarterfinal, semi-final. It's not round of 16. That didn't seem fair.
No, I suppose it was evened out with the group we had, and then we get a tough tie like that. But yeah, no, I remember I think the first leg we drew 1-1, if I believe correctly. I think Ronaldo scored that game as well from a header. I'm fairly certain, but I mean, we done the job. I got the away goal first leg, and then to go to Old Trafford. I can't remember the lineup exactly, but I do remember Danny Welbeck was up top, and he was actually causing Madrid all sorts of problems. I'm not sure if he got the goal or if it was Vidic. I know one of them got it. But yeah, I believe we were 1-0 up at half time, looking really good. And then, that moment came with Nani, which I don't think that's ever sending off. I thought it was, in a game like that, it was just so harsh. He had clear intent to play the ball. And it was just an unfortunate incident. I think the yellow card would have been the right call. But yeah, you've seen it completely changed the game. Modric went on to score, and then that was the first time Ronaldo had been back at Old Trafford since the move, and he got the goal and didn't celebrate like a gentleman. The hands up. But yeah, I mean, I remember Fergie came running down after that red card and was in arms at the ref. It was just, I couldn't believe it. It still hurts. Fergie's last Champions League game, that's how it ended. And yeah, it's tragic. I really feel like if Nanny stayed on the pitch, we would have won that game.
I think so. I mean, it went down, according to UEFA, as a Ramos own goal was the reason we scored in that second leg at Old Trafford. But yeah, Nani gets sent off 56th minute, and then Jose Mourinho goes for the jugular. He takes off Arbeloa and brings on Modric, who scores 7 minutes later. I mean, yeah, that hurts. That does hurt. But I mean, this you mentioned about starting lineups in the game. De Gea in goal, Rafael, Ferdinand, Vidic and Evra as a back four, Carrick and Cleverley in that holding midfield, Nani, Welbeck and Giggs along that front three, and then Van Persie starting up top. So no Rooney in the game. He started on the bench and was brought on about the 73rd minute for Tom Cleverley. So maybe I'm trying to think if there was some sort of injury concerns. He could only play, say, 15, 20 minutes in the match. But this is a Real Madrid side that I'm going to run through some names for you. Fabio Coentrao, Rafael Varane, Sergio Ramos, Arbeloa, Xabi Alonso, Sami Khedira, Ronaldo, needs no introduction, Ozil, Di Maria, Higuain up top. And then on their bench, of course, they have Pepe, Kaká, Benzema, Modric. It's absolutely stacked for Real Madrid. Absolutely stacked.
Yeah, and it makes it even more impressive that, United should have won that game. You're talking about Tom Cleverley. I know he done a job for us, but on paper, when you look at their midfield, even the players on the bench, Modric would have walked into the team. It's credit to Fergie. He made a career out of that, getting the best out of, players who you wouldn't think would be that great. Welbeck, as I mentioned, was running riot, and he probably wouldn't get near that Real Madrid team. Credit to Fergie. He made, I'd say, a lesser, better team on paper than Madrid really go out there and look like the better team, I think.
There's only one flaw I would point out, and that's that Javier Hernandez was left on the bench. Bring him on. He loves a scalping of a goal.
Yeah.
But at that point, we would have needed 2 goals because, of course, you rightly mentioned, away goals Real Madrid would have gone through even if we had drawn level on aggregate. It's just, that's the way it was. Not sure about away goals being ruled out. I still feel mixed about that. I feel like you deserve more if you actually do score away from home. But hey, UEFA got rid of it a few years ago. It's not really made a huge difference in my life since, so I can't say I'll notice it too much. But anyway, when we come back after the break, we'll be looking further into the tree as to how far maybe United could have got and who United could have got if it were all a little bit different on the day we faced Madrid. We'll be back after this.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionic, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionic provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
So, if United had got through against Real Madrid in the round of 16, their next match for the quarterfinals would have been against Galatasaray. And Galatasaray in the return leg really did put up a fight. Again, in Turkey, they managed to win 3-2, with Arbeloa actually getting sent off in the 90th minute. Real Madrid really survived the scare, and eventually they won 5-3 on aggregate. But yeah, quite a result. To say the least. Galatasaray would have had the likes of Muslera in goal. Absolute Galatasaray legend is Fernando Muslera. Emmanuel Eboué starting at fullback there. You had Semikaya, Felipe Melo. You had Wesley Sneijder. You had Didier Drogba playing for Galatasaray at the time. So I feel like this was a side that you sort of underestimated at your peril.
Yeah, no, I think when you mention those names, people probably think, it's the end of their careers, don't really have it anymore. But they showed they still had it by the run they made, and beating Madrid in one of the legs. Just shows the quality they had. And yeah, I mean, going away to Galatasaray, I don't know if you've seen like pictures or videos, but I think they call it like the pit of fire or hell or something when they have all the red flares, and it looks like a very intimidating place to go to. But yeah, I think if United, had got them, I think the away leg definitely would have been tough. I can't remember if the higher seed plays away first or not, but if we could have got a result, kept in it away to them, I think at Old Trafford we would have been able to do the job. And obviously if we would have been there. If we beaten Madrid, I think we would have had the confidence, and we're also Premier League champions that year, so I think we would have pulled through.
Yeah, what would you reckon? Because Real Madrid struggled against Galatasaray at Turkey. So what do you reckon? Sort of scoreline prediction,
Yeah,
or
I think.
prediction, or sort of what it could have been?
Yeah, I think. I mean, you said they beat Madrid by a goal. I think even if we had lost but got the away goal, just if we had lost by a goal, I think that would have set us up perfectly for success. I mean, I could see it being. I don't think we'd run away with it, but I could see it being like a maybe 2-2 draw, or maybe if they were to win, like a 2-1 win, something like that. But I think we'd be in the tie after that. Still, I don't think Galatasaray would run away with it at all.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Sort of, it's a case of away leg would have been tough. I mean, we found that out in the group stage, and I can't actually remember UEFA rules if it would have even been possible for us to draw Galatasaray at the quarterfinals. I'm assuming it would have been possible because there's just got to be a certain point where it's like, well, actually, you probably could come up against who you faced in a group. So yeah, if it was possible, and feel free to correct us below, but we're just doing a what if scenario. So please be nice. But I think, yeah, it showed in the group stage that Galatasaray are a tough side to beat in Turkey, in Istanbul. So the job would have had to have been done at Old Trafford, and it would have had to have been, say, Real Madrid winning 3-0. It would have had to have been that because they would have put up a huge fight to get us through. But you're saying we would have won it over 2 legs?
Yeah, I think we would have pulled through. I think just as I said, we won the league that year. We had quality, and we showed we should have beaten Madrid, and if they were go on to beat them, I think we'd have no problem. Well, we'd have a bit of a problem, but at Old Trafford, I think that second leg tie, I think we'd have no problem in seeing the job done.
The next game then would have been a huge game because it would have been semi-final against Borussia Dortmund, who eventually made it to the final and lost 2-1 in the final. But it's the first leg that would have been really, really tough. If we had been on the receiving end of Lewandowski 4 goals in the game, I'm not sure where I would have gone with that. To be honest, I probably would have just been crying. What's that? 13, 14 years ago? Yeah. That 12, 13 years ago. I would have been crying. Even at 14, I would have been crying. 15, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, well, we nearly seen him sooner in the Prem. He nearly had that Blackburn move if it wasn't for that.
Is that true? It was for the volcano in Iceland? I don't know.
That's the story anyway. But yeah. Obviously worked out. He didn't go to there and done well at Dortmund. But yeah, I mean, that season Dortmund were a bit of a joke, to be honest. They had Klopp at the helm. They had all these players who, most of them would go on to Bayern. That had great careers, but Lewandowski, so dangerous, as you mentioned, 4 goals. You had Marco Reus in his prime. You had Mario Götze up and coming. I believe a year or two before he got that big Bayern move. Didn't work out from there, obviously. Then you had the likes of Mats Hummels, who was coming through as one of the best centre backs in the world, and you had the likes of then like Blaszczykowski, Piszczek, good experienced players, solid players. So yeah, it definitely would have been a tough tie. We would have to, as you said, stay in it at Signal Iduna Park. Not let them get away. Just shut down Lewandowski. I'd hope Ferdinand Vidic would have a bit more experience and wise to deal with him if it came to that match. But yeah, we couldn't let them run away with it there. And then at Old Trafford, I still think we could get a win, but I think it would only be a 1-goal win, maybe 2 at the max. But yeah, that tie would be so tough.
Yeah, to be honest, if I had my sort of head cap on this and thinking, logically about this is as far as I think United would have got to. I think Borussia Dortmund, the quality they had in their side. I mean, Lewandowski, we're still talking about him 12 years later as he's leading the line at Barcelona. He's still a fantastic striker. Has had to adapt his game a little bit. Now he's into his late 30s, but he's still a very good striker, deadly in front of goal. He's proven that year after year. We're still talking about it 12 years later. He was just as dangerous now as he was then. And yeah, I don't think I could have coped if he put 4 past United in the first leg. Real Madrid did try and fight back when they went back to the Bernabeu. They needed another goal, really, to level it up because they did get an away goal. So had they got one more goal in that game, they would have gone through on away goals. But such is the way. Dortmund managed to hang on and make their way to the final. But again, so many good players in there. I think Matt, did you mention Mats Hummels?
I do, yeah.
He's been sort of, had that time at Dortmund, went to Bayern Munich, crossed the way on a free on a Bosman, then went back to Dortmund, just to win a trophy or two, I guess. But yeah, this was a really good Dortmund side. I think we would have struggled, and I don't think we would have made it to the final. But Cormac, you reckon we could have?
Yeah. I like to be optimistic, and you mentioned the dangers of Lewandowski, but we had Van Persie, Premier League Golden Boot winner that year. So we had a just as good striker that year up top. And I think he would have caused all sorts of problems for Hummels, and I believe Subotic might have been the other centre back. It would have been very close side. I do think the attack they had, and especially they were all kind of young back then, might have caused issues for our kind of aging backline, the likes of Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra. But no, I like to be optimistic. I think we showed, Madrid gave them a game that we could have beaten Madrid, and I like to be optimistic and say we just squeaked through that one.
Well, how about squeaking through this one? Champions League final, had we made it all the way, and Cormac reckons we could have, we'd have been up against Bayern Munich. And I'm just going to remind you of that Bayern Munich lineup for the final. Manuel Neuer in goal, David Alaba, Dante, Boateng and Philipp Lahm in the back four, Schweinsteiger and Javi Martinez in the middle of the park, Ribery, Muller and Robben is that attacking midfield three, with Mario Mandzukic up top. Again, still one of those that's still around. Maybe not so much now, but definitely a couple of years ago, it did also make it to another Champions League final with Juventus. So not too long ago. So yeah, he's been a name that's been absolutely thrown around so many times as a great striker. And in the end, it was a case of a scuffed Robben shot. It's the only way I can describe it. It's because I'm so jealous. That's why. But yeah, that's the goal that decided the 2012-13 Champions League final. It opened up the scoring after the hour mark by Mario Mandzukic. Gundogan levelled from the spot at just 8 minutes later before Robben got the winner in the 89th minute. Now, that's a tough side to come up against in Bayern Munich. How do you reckon it could have gone?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where the optimism for me kind of dies down a bit. Yeah, I think it would be close, but I feel like that Bayern team is just, so good. I mean, it was a good, mix. They had some decent young players in there, but then, the experience, the likes of Philipp Lahm, Schweinsteiger, Robben, Ribery, I mean, it's just, and that's kind of when, is that a season or two after, I think Ribery, they say he should have won the Ballon d'Or that one season. But, Robben and Ribery were in prime form there, would have caused us all sorts of problems. And it was just such a well-balanced team. I think it would have been a close game. I'd like to think, if we had managed to deal with Lewandowski and got through, we could deal with Mandzukic. But, I think I could have seen Bayern just pipping that one maybe by a goal.
I think as well, we would have had to deal with, it's an amazing attack in Ribery, Muller, Robben, Mandzukic, but we would also have to deal with Philipp Lahm, one of the best, fullbacks of his generation. Just not only that, but he managed to play in the middle of the park as well if he was called upon. He's such a versatile player, fantastic leader at the back there for Bayern Munich for many, many years. And to be honest with you, he retired while he was still at the top of his game. He could have gone on for another few years at the very least, but decided to call it a day, I think at 33 years old. So, yeah, I mean, he was absolutely amazing. And then when Bayern Munich had Lahm retire, they just had Joshua Kimmich come through. And it was like, well, great. You've got another Lahm. Brilliant. Excellent. I don't think Kimmich is quite Lahm's level yet, but maybe that's me talking with rose-tinted glasses. Lahm was incredible. Any team, he'd walk into any team as one of the best leaders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always love Philipp Lahm. Me playing, footy, I was either right back or centre mid. So literally the same as him. So, he's always a player I kind of looked up to. And, also interesting as well that I believe in his career he never got a yellow card. I'm pretty sure I've seen a stat on that, like 500 and something games he never got booked, which is absolutely, amazing. But yeah, he was just such a great player. But even more than that, he was such a great captain. I believe he captained Germany a good bit as well. And yeah, he really epitomised, Bayern Munich lad, and yeah, I was kind of glad he got his Champions League in the end. He deserved it.
I agree. It was. I remember watching this game, and I thought I really wanted Dortmund to win. It was their dream run, and it felt like it should have been, the fairy tale ending. What it ended up being was every one of those players was pretty much in the Bayern Munich shopping window at that point. They got Lewandowski in the end. They obviously got Goetze, who I think missed this game in the final, which would have been a huge loss for Dortmund. But eventually they also got Hummels in there as well. So yeah, it was a case of most of them were in the shop window just for Bayern Munich to have a look at in the end. But hey, it is what it is. But would you, you're a bit less optimistic about the final if we were to come up against Bayern Munich in this era. Would it have been a respectable scoreline? Would it have gone to extra time? Could we have maybe brought it to penalties? What's the sort of vibe you would have got as a hypothetical?
Yeah, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. I remember we played Bayern the following year. Do you remember that with Moyes in the Champions League?
Never
scored that screamer away. And we were actually I think there was only about half an hour left, and we were actually going through. So the fact that a Moyes team was able to, give them a game, and they brought in, more firepower. I think now that I think about it, it would have been very tight, and I might actually change my answer and say United might pip it in maybe pens.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think there'll be shades of 08 and
who's slipping then?
Yeah, who would slip? Philipp Lahm, maybe.
Philipp Lahm. Blasphemy, that is. Absolute blasphemy.
Hey, he's captain. Dear. John Terry was captain for Chelsea.
I suppose. I see the logic. I just don't like it. Oh dear. Well, pipped on penalties, perhaps. Well, what a time it could have been. But yeah, had that red card not happened, Cormac reckons we could maybe have pipped it at penalties. I maybe less so. Might have got knocked out in the semi-finals. But yeah, that Dortmund team was absolutely incredible in 2012-13. Klopp maybe was unlucky not to win the Champions League. But sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And Dortmund have been really a thorn in the side of Bayern Munich for many years after that. But hey, that's football. Cormac, any final thoughts on today's sort of look back? We love looking back at Manchester United. Maybe this is a little bit more of a sad one because it's a case of what might have been.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always enjoy looking back at the good old days, especially now when we're not having too much success. But yeah, I think this, the whole that year, the Nanny incident, I think that's one of the tougher ones for me to take over the years in terms of decisions going against us. I mean, we won the Premier League. It was Fergie's last year. It would have been the perfect ending if he had, been able to go on and lead us to a Champions League and get his third Champions League with us. But yeah, it was such a shame that decision happened, and it really, ruined what could have been. And I think it could have been, a very successful end to Fergie's incredible reign over us.
Well, Cormac, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. It's been a pleasure to have a look back at what might have been. And of course, if you're wondering as well, or if you want to get involved, how far do you think Manchester United would have made it? Do you think they could have won the Champions League? Maybe there might have been a shock defeat at Galatasaray. Let us know down in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Start a conversation. We'd love to hear from you. We're on all the social media. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter and X. We're on Instagram. And we're on Facebook as GSPN Man United. Go follow us there. Go start the conversation underneath. If you're listening to the episodes as well on Apple and Spotify, don't forget you can leave your comments below. Give us a rating. I think you should give us 5 stars, but I might be a bit biased. I think Cormac agrees. He's nodding his head. That means then you're missing out. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, you're missing out on Cormac nodding his head in agreement. You can also watch the episodes on YouTube, so you can not miss out on that part. It's at GSPN Daily Man United Podcast. It's such a long title, so you have to remember it. Thank you so much for watching and listening today's episode. A big thank you to Cormac as well for joining me on today's podcast. I've been Kieran. I'm going away for a while. But I'll leave you in their very capable hands. I'm switching off and I'm throwing my phone into the river for a couple of weeks. Just as when United are getting into form. Yeah, I don't understand my decision-making either. Make sure you're all tuning in to the next episode, though, and I won't doubt your decision-making. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.